Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary, allow me to introduce myself by repeating myself and repeating the fact that you deserve a good night's sleep, and that's what I'm here for. All right, everybody. This episode here is a all intro episode coming up here. And we play these, it's a compilation of 5 intros all strung together. These come out like around long weekends here in the U.S. I know things are a little bit different, but this is kind of what allows me to catch up on work and have a little space. And it's just a fan favorite, so much so that $10 and up patrons get 2 all intro episodes a month. So if you really love all intros, you could check that out. But yeah, I'll just be kind of repeating the same thing in a very different way each time, over and over. And I so appreciate that I get to make this podcast for you twice a week, and then have these fun little breaks we could take. Yeah, because I couldn't do it like if you weren't falling asleep or enjoying the show. That's why I make it. Thanks so much. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. It's, whether it's thoughts, like it's the stuff you're thinking of, like what is this guy talking about, or what happened? Scoot's got a little early mix up there. So thoughts, feelings, it could be emotions, it could be about, it could be past, present, or future related. Physical sensations, anything going on with your body, whatever it is, changes in schedule, travel, partners, whatever's keeping you awake. I'd like to help with that. And what I'm going to do is I have this beautiful safe place. Beautiful or mundane safe place is set aside. Oh yeah. What's your favorite kind of architecture? Okay, well, this is influenced by that, believe it or not, this safe place, totally influenced by that era. Oh, it's not an era, it's a style. Well, it was vaguely influenced by that, and it's both, you're right, it's both mundane. It was the one where it's kind of like, yeah, it's totally like that. I keep getting the word parson put in there, and I don't know why that's coming in. It doesn't have anything to do with the style of the safe place. But I'll tell you what, I got a safe place set aside for you, plenty of room, plenty of privacy, or, there's communal areas and private areas. That's what makes it a safe place. And it's very, it's solid and malleable, of course. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless and rustified meanders, superfluous tangents. You might say, Scoots, what is a superfluous tangent? And I'd say, well, sometimes you say, could this use one more tangent? And then I say, what's that tangent over there? And you say, well, are you going to put the extra tangents into the stone soup? And I'd say, well, how about I carry the stone soup? I think I'm going to carry the stone soup. That's my thing is I carry it, it mixes it a bit. And I'm just going to take it on I'm just going to go 400 steps, like in this, down this path. I don't know where the path goes, but I'll probably be back in 400 steps or some number of steps eventually. I realize that you don't feel like the soup needs that. Oh, wait, it's a metaphor? Stone soup's a metaphor. Holy mackerel. So I'm just you just lightened my load because I'm walking around with a metaphor inside a metaphor. It's like walking around with a cloud. Holy mackerel. And you know what it makes me think of is another, like I'm trying to think of another superfluous tangent that I could come up with there within that. Because I think about superfluous makes me think of superfluous. which would be a nonsensical word version of superfluous, but it's pretty nice on the ears. And another thing you could say to help you relax or during the day, an inside joke for yourself, you say superfluous. Okay, and then you say, Scoots, could you spell that for me? Superfluous. Okay, let me try to spell superfluous, right? Super, superfluous. It's probably harder than it looks in my brain, and it looks like a spaghetti al dente. Let's just say it's FLOUS or something. Superfluous. Superfluous. Oh, I changed the word already. Superfluous. Zuber. 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 Superb. Maybe it needs an IV. Well, let's just decide to work. Let's just say it's a word without spelling. Superfluous. Okay, but this is a script selling. Oh, I thought this was that was my book I'm working on. Selling to the script spelling bee. Inventing words to be spelled. My lifetime's work. Also the original title, Superfluous. Or superfluous or superfluous. Sorry, there was an accidental superfluous tangent in there because usually I try to bring it back for new listeners. Superfluous tangents, basically a whole lot of nonsense. And what it is if you're new, I'm glad you're here. This is a podcast to take your mind off of stuff, to keep you company as you fall asleep, or, if you're repurposing this podcast as you study or chill or try to relax, or just, just to take your mind off stuff and keep you company, basically. And if you're new, again, I'm glad you're here. If you're skeptical, why wouldn't you be? I mean, here I am, maybe I'll stock it. Remember there was pants I think it was in the 90s, maybe. They were called Zuba pants. I'm not sure if they were the same pants that were like zebra pants, but NFL teams and NFL team colors, or if there was something else. But I remember there was these things called Zuba pants. I really don't know anything more other than I loved that name. I think they were the 90s version of dad jeans. You'd say, what does a suburbanite dude wear on the weekends when they're sporting around and saying, hey, Sporto, what are you doing later? Grilling after I mow the lawn. Sporto. Oh, yeah? What are you wearing? Oh, Sporto. This has already devolved into another superfluous tangent. I'm wearing those Zuba pants you gave me. Oh, that's right. Thanks. I'll talk to you later. Enjoy the mowing of the lawn and the sporting around. Okay. Zuba pants. What was I talking? Okay. So this podcast is nonsensical. I honestly have no idea where those Zuba pants came from, honey. It wasn't Sporto that gave them to me. I think you did. You've always felt strongly about the pants my friends give me. These are the pants I love. I just love sitting around in my Zuba pants. And I just like saying Zuba pants. And I'll have to Google it later to know what they even are. But what Scoots was saying was that he's glad the new listeners are here. He's there to try to help them. So structurally what to expect. A little late for that, but I'm still set it up for you. Put you at ease. Show starts off with a few minutes of business. That's how we're able to keep the podcast free. A podcast that takes hundreds and hundreds of hours every month to craft. We're able to keep it free instead of behind a paywall. And you say, really, you craft this thing? I say, yep, believe it or not, I'm only laughing because I know you're laughing. And because it's true, and because it's ridiculously true. So there's business, then there's an intro. And for some new listeners, the intro can kind of throw you off. It's kind of just like I don't even know what it is. It's a little bit like recess at the start of, you say, okay, so you start your podcast out and then you have recess. And I say, well, a recessing is sensibility. Where you could wind down, or like at recess, I guess for kids, they run around. It's the opposite for kids, but so where you can unwind and ease into bedtime. So the intros where I try to explain what the podcast is. It takes me 12 to 18 minutes and I go off topic. And you could either listen to that as you're getting ready for bed or as you're in bed or while more and more schools in session and university and stuff like that. People study to this or code to this or, a few people, paint drying hobbyists watch paint dry. Maybe the bespoke Zuba pants maker is stitching away on the new Zubas for 2020. Nubas, the Zuba pants that are new. New Zubas. Okay, so there's an intro, then there's a business, then there's a bedtime story. Tonight will be a recap of a Star Trek The Next Generation episode. And what that entails is if you've never seen it or you don't watch Star Trek or you're unfamiliar, I'll be talking about it in a way that you won't need to have watched it before. Or if you have, you'll say, Scoots, did that really happen? And you'd say, what, Natasha Yar? Are you spinning Natasha yarn? And I'd say, Natasha Yarn, that's the real name of Noir Chardonnay. When I pretend I'm Noir Chardonnay undercover, that's my real name. Also, if you ever want to find me at a hotel, remind me to check in as Natasha Yar. Not Tasha, it's different, but a little bit closer. No, believe me, I'll be wearing Zuba pants. Thanks for that question. So there's an intro, then I'll talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, a specific episode for about 45 minutes. This will be the second of a two-part episode, Redemption. I hope that's what it's titled. Then there's some thank yous at the end. So that's the structure show. The podcast is about an hour long. It's also a podcast you don't need to listen to. You can kind of listen. You can listen. I'm going to be here till the very end to keep you company if you can't sleep. But there's no pressure to listen on your end. You don't need to. You might miss some stuff. But you also, you say, how many times can a person say Zuba pants in an intro? And I say, is there a Zuba pants podcast? Because that has good alliteration. It'd be better if it was Zeke's Zuba. Zeke's Zuba. I can't even say that. Maybe not Zeke. Zumba in Zuba. Use pants podcast. Yeah, because it could be. I cover pants used in Zumba classes. Zuba pants, the perfect pants for Zumba. Also, I'm not exactly sure what Zumba is. I just seen ads for it. I think it's like dance exercise, but I'm not positive. But in the case, I'm picturing the Zuba pants are pretty baggy, so they may be good. They're probably made of cotton, though, so maybe we'll have to update that. Maybe our friends at Sweat Chicago can help us, and we'll totally corner that market and start a new podcast, the Zuba Pants podcast. So, with this thing... you don't need to listen. I think that you figured that out, huh? It made that pretty obvious. No pressure to listen. No pressure to fall asleep either. The show's an hour, so you could fall asleep as you drift off. I'm here to keep you company, to walk at your side, and to be here, taking your mind off stuff, and then you just drift away. So you have the easy job, but I know it's not really easy. But I do want you to get comfortable. I do truly believe you do deserve a good night's sleep, and I can believe that for you. If it's not easy for you to believe that, I'm here for you because I've been there and I know how it feels, and I really want to help. Now, the other side of that is the podcast doesn't work for everybody, so give it a few tries and see how it goes. But most people, the regular listeners, hundreds of thousands of people I've heard from say it takes 2 or 3 tries, and then they kind of say, "Oh, okay. I get it. I get what he means by superfluous tangent now. It took a little while, but he's full of it, that Scoots. And he's still, I bet you right now, Scoots is trying to think of another way to shoehorn in Zumba pants. They're Zuba pants. But anyway, maybe yeah. They say, both of those are brands that you can't use those names, sir. And I'd say, well, that's okay, because I was using a nonsense word about something I already forgot about. like that just barely sounded like, I don't know if I was saying Zoomaphone or something earlier, and your products just came naturally flowing out of there. So anyway, if you're new, I'm glad you're here. If you're a regular listener, I'm glad you're back. Huh? Aren't you glad you're back? Listening to this intro, getting cozy, getting a little, a little dose of nonsense. Let me tuck in there. What do you want me to do with your feet? Okay, you got it. I'm here to help. I appreciate you coming by. I work very hard at Yearn and Nest Drive, and I'd really like to help you fall asleep. Thanks again one more time for coming by. And here's a few of the ways we keep this podcast free for everybody. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, things on your mind that you're thinking about or that are popping in your head. I call them brain bots. Maybe we'll talk about those brain bots. We haven't talked about them too much recently that I remember, but, my brain bots could be distracting me. It could be feelings like emotions coming up for you related to the thoughts or just coming up on their own, or maybe they've been there. Waiting for a cool breeze or some hot air from a podcaster to, blow them away or gently soothe them. Or just say, well, that breeze is nice. Let me just pay attention to that. I've never felt a cool breeze of hot air except on Sleep With Me. As cool as a breeze of hot air on the other side of the pillow. Sleep With Me podcast. Or physical sensations. I'm also here to take your mind off of that. Whatever's keeping you awake. It could be something else. You could work second, third shift. You could be on call. Holy life, if you know what I'm saying, whatever it is, I'm here to keep you company and to take your mind off of stuff so you can drift off. And what I'm going to do is I got this safe place set aside here. Oh boy, is it nice and cozy. It's also, deliverable. It's on its way there. You could come over here or I can send it over there. Or I'll meet you in the middle, whatever works best for you. So I'm going to, one of the ways I do that is I send my voice across the deep, dark night. I use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. Oh, so creaky. Just like, as I was reminded, Raven was that so Raven, my creaky, dulcet tones. So if my creaky, dulcet tones had multiple shows on channels, for the tween market, and they were their own being, you'd say, okay, so you'd say that's oh so creaky. What's that show about, oh so creaky? Well, it's about a door, a creaky. We tried to get oh so creaky dulcet tones, but they said, that's so Raven, 3 words. And I said, oh, so this channel only does TV. I said, oh, well, Pete and Pete, Secret Life of whatever, Sweet Life of whatever and that whatever. Other shows I can't remember. Hannah Montana, that's only 2 words, actually. They say, right, that's less than 4. I say, oh, okay, got me. So, yeah, I guess I could go with oh so creaky. Could we do it about a creaky door that runs a house, full of tweens? Adorable. Some adorable, some, more of a... you're a little bit rough around the edges, family that comes together, but also doesn't always work together. And the door that enables that, the episode could open with the creaky door opening. Okay, I lost the executives I was on the line with. They'll get back to me, though, I'm sure. So, creaky dulcet tones is also what my voice sounds like. Pointless meanders. You got one of those about my creaky dulcet show. That's a different show, the creaky dulcet show. That's more of a personality-driven show. That would be after oh so creaky, does big. Then they say tonight at 2 p.m. Check out the Creaky Dulcet show, where the Creaky Dulcet door will be talking to people about things and stuff like that. Celebrities, things, maybe, sorry. Yeah. So pointless meanders, superfluous tangents, unnecessary words, confusing tangents too. So I'm going to do all those things to take your mind off stuff. If you're new, let me give you a couple of pieces of information, or try to, before I go off topic once again. So this podcast doesn't work for everybody. That's one thing you need to know. But for most people it works for. You just need to give it a few tries and see how it goes. Or you don't need to. You could give it a few tries and see how it goes. That's what most, I'd say 90 to 95% of listeners say. And there's people now that have been listening to the show 6-7 years. And they commonly say, well, at first I didn't know what it was, and it was a little bit different. And eventually I realized, yeah, I don't know what this is, and it's a little bit different. Perfect for falling asleep to. I didn't know if I liked creaky dulcet tones or creaky dulcet tangents, and then I realized I didn't really need to like it. I don't know if that's what ambivalent is, but that's what we're shooting for, is how my brain's defining ambivalent. You say, well, yeah, I mean, I listen to Sleep With Me 7 nights a week, 8 episodes a night. Support it, do everything I can. They say, well, how do you really feel about the show? Clear your actions show you have strong feelings about the pod. Yeah, no, I more feel ambivalent about it. I'm really, I'm here to, I back up my ambivalence. It's the one thing I'm strongly ambivalent about. Normally, you're just ambivalent. With Sleep With Me, I feel strongly ambivalent about it. Yes. Actively ambivalent. That'll be another story one day. I'll tell, another biography I'll write. Okay, so, oh boy, though, I had points. Oh, so, yeah, this podcast doesn't work for everybody. That's one thing. The second thing is, if you're new, approach it kind of loosely and out of focus, because the podcast is very different. It's not really meant to be listened to, but initially you'll have strong feelings because you say, well, this isn't what I expected. And this isn't exactly what I would associate with a sleep podcast. And I'd say, yeah, kind of give it a try and kind of see how it goes. It is very different. You're correct in that. And of course you'd be doubtful or skeptical because you've probably been through tons of sleep solutions and tried a ton of things. And probably spent a lot of money and time on all that stuff. So give this show a few tries, see if it helps. I hope it does. The other thing is, unlike all that other stuff out there that's made to put you to sleep, or it comes with a guarantee, I already said there's no guarantee, but, it comes with a promise of putting you to sleep. This podcast really won't put you to sleep. It will be here while you fall asleep, and maybe for some of you while you're sleeping. So I'm more here to keep you company and tell you a bedtime story just like a friend would as you fall asleep. So I'm here to take your mind off stuff and be a comforting presence, or a barely distracting presence you don't have to feel, that you don't have to feel strongly about, that you can feel strongly in your lack of your neutral feelings about. So podcasts you don't need to listen to, doesn't really put you to sleep. But the thing is, if you can't sleep or you need the show multiple times or you're waking up or whatever it is, I'm here for you. This show goes to the very end. There's 300 episodes ready for you to listen to. New stuff comes out twice a week. So I'm here. So if you can't sleep, I'm here to keep you company. Or if you're not listening and you're sound asleep, I'm here to keep you company. My job is the same because you're important to me. The reason I make the show, one of the reasons is because you do deserve a good night's sleep. And you don't deserve all that extra pressure or people saying, well, if you did it right, you'd be sound asleep. That's a brain bot. Also, humans talk like that too. But that is an example of a brain bot in my brain. And brain bots are, at least to me, a unitary function within your brain, a bit like brain bots. Not all of them are as cute as BB-8 or that cone droid that I talked about with the wheels. But they could look delightful, but rarely. Unfortunately, I don't have like the joy bots. I say hello when I'm looking for the joy bots. They're a little bit harder to find. I mean, they're out there. I've learned that in my own life journey. But the joy bots, you got to actually be more intentional to find them. You got to be in the moment, or you got to keep a gratitude list. But the brain bots or the other ones, you could use other words to describe them. Like they kind of effortlessly turn on, and then they have a perpetual energy. So like one of them would be like, you're doing it wrong. And you say, well, I'm just trying to go to sleep. Yep. Well, you've been doing it wrong that's why. If only you could do it right, you'd sleep great. You say, are you sure it's not the pressure you're putting on me because I don't know what I've tried everything. Probably haven't tried it the right way. You say, well, but that part of us, it really is, at least for me, it's really what the truth is. It's in as much PAIN as we are. It really needs some loving. And it really doesn't want to, poke us like it does. It really wants to help. But it's caught in this weird paradox. I just recently learned this about myself. Because even though I like to talk about it on the podcast, I'm very loving to the brain bots. So a lot of times in my personal life, I'm doing a little bit more active work, and sometimes it's not all positive work. I see, especially with that thing you say, sometimes you get a little fed up, right? And not that long ago, I realized, oh, wow, you're me, and you're kind of stuck in this too, huh? And you're trying to fix things. You really want to help. You just have this one function. You really want to fix stuff. But when you do, it kind of makes it worse. That can't be easy to be a brain bot either. And in that case, they say, hey, come over here and I don't know what to do. So I'll just give you a hug or, well, pat you on your BB-88 like dome. Or stroke your, not to sound funny, but I'll stroke your dome if you want me to. I mean, because you're a brain bot within me. Like those of you that are guffawing, it's fine. So that's the kind of, what the podcast does is a lighter version of that. I don't do any brain bot loving or loving like that. What I do is they say, hey, come on in. I'll tell you a story while your human falls asleep. Because I can see you're stuck in a paradox, too, and you're trying to do the best you can. And you got these tools, which is just, being a little bit of a tent that's ear tent, an ear tent, or rhymes with that. And so I'm here to help. I'm here to help you and your brain bots. And actually, your brain bots, they love my stories because they're so smart. Oh, boy, are those brain bots smart and helpful. That's why I keep all the seats up front reserved for brain bots with extra squares of rug. Oh, boy, come on over. And like I've talked about on the show, we have special brain bot treats set out, lavender oil, circuit soothers. Oh boy, do we. Melatonin-based circuit soothers. Your rugs are imbued with calming energy. We deionized all the rugs earlier. And plenty of stuff like that. So I'm glad you're all here. So that's, okay. So that's why I make the show, though, is you deserve a good night's sleep and a place of solace. And you're not doing it wrong. It's just not easy. And it's not easy for me either, or the hundreds of thousands of other people that are listening along with you right now. They know how it feels too. And it's not a great feeling, right? But this show's here to make you feel less alone. And to say, yeah, it's not easy for us either. So if I can help you, it'd be my honor, because your world and our world will be a better place if you get a good night's rest, or at least your bedtime could be a little bit more neutral. And maybe you get to set foot on that path where one day you're patting the dome of your brain bots or blowing them kisses or whatever it is. Or, rubbing their domes. I'm not going to say that other one because it's too goofy. And that was an accident anyway. But so that's why I make the show, is because I've been there and I believe you deserve a good night's sleep. A structure, which this is a little late to tell you, but this is something that throws a lot of new listeners off. So show structure goes like this. It starts off with the greeting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. Then something silly I say in the moment. Then there's business. That really is what enables us to bring you the show twice a week for free and all that 300 episodes there. And keep it free for to be downloaded millions of times a month for free. Then there's an intro. The business throws some people off, but a lot of people associate the business with the next 18 minutes, which is the intro, because the intro to some people, even common sense would say an intro should be 3 or 4 minutes tops. But for Sleep With Me, the intro's optional. That's one thing. If you become a regular listener, you could be like the 2% of listeners. And I recently looked this up on another platform, and it was 2% that skipped the intro. Amazing, those statistics. So you could be the 2% of people that just start the show at 20 minutes, or you could see and kind of see how it goes. But for most listeners, the intro is 16 to 18 to 20 minutes to give you time to unwind, to get ready for bed, or to slowly drift and get comfortable in bed. Because if you're anything like me, sleep does not happen instantly, right? And that's what all those solutions that you're supposed to be doing right kind of say, if you just do this, this, and this, and you do that 84 or 41 breathing or whatever it is, and you think about, the center of light, then you fall asleep. It just never has worked for me. Not that it doesn't work for some people. And I meditate and stuff like that as a part of my routine, but it doesn't help me fall asleep. It does help me fall asleep on a regular basis. So it kind of sounds like I'm poo-pooing stuff. I'm more poo-pooing the idea that, I just saw one of the brain bots poo-pooed. I got to clean that up. Sorry about that. That's why I was on my brain. But that was for any kids listening. It's just oil anyway. Don't worry about it. Oh, wait, no, it looks like some oil and some... what is that? I don't know, but lavender, melatonin lavender or something. Okay, so I clean that up. So the intro just gives you a chance to get ready for bed and unwind. And if you need a break during the day, the intros are also popular with people that need a break while they're doing the dishes, or they're just sitting around or lying on the floor or writing code or whittling or whatever. So that's the intro. Then there's business. Then there'll be our episode, which tonight will be like a little bit of a surprise. And then there's some thank yous at the end. So that's the structure of the show. And the reason why I make the show and kind of what to expect is like a lot of nonsense and the unexpected. So I'm glad you're here. I really appreciate your time and checking this podcast out. I really hope I can help. I work hard. I yearn and I strive to help you fall asleep. So thank you one more time for coming by. Give it a few tries and see how it goes. And here's a couple of ways we're able to bring this show for free. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with the bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. It could be thoughts, things on your mind. I don't know if I always said on your mind, because they're kind of in your mind and around your mind and kind of like dancing around, you say, or flying around like those, summertime beings that fly around. You see, so they could be, I mean, and sometimes when you say flying around your mind, that sounds like they're going fast, and sometimes they are, but sometimes they're like lackadaisically moving about. You're trying to go to sleep, right? And you're saying, what are you doing flying around up there, thoughts? I'm trying to get to bed. I'm trying to do a podcast intro. So it could be thoughts, past, present, or future, feelings, like emotions coming up, either about thoughts or just in general. Sometimes, I guess, motions bubbling, motions or motion. Well, here's the thing. Hopefully your bed's not in motion right now. I mean, maybe maybe you're in Afterglow City. That's great. But hopefully, like but your emotions kind of do bubble up, or they appear, or they're just there. You say, "Whoa, oh boy, I felt you before I noticed you." You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that's how I feel. Sometimes it could be years later. I said, "I've been feeling you for years." Whoa, huh. So feelings, physical sensations could be coming up. And you could be dealing with those. So whatever it is, I'm here to take your mind off of that slowly. Can't do it immediately, but we'll get there. And what I'm going to do is I got this safe place set aside. I'm sending it to you all the way right to your, wherever you are. Signed, sealed, delivered, safe place. And if, I wrapped it up, but in a convenient way that's easy to unwrap, but gives you a sense of, oh boy. You see, this is the first safe place unboxing we've ever done on Sleep With Me. I say, well, I'll probably forget but I'll try to come back to that. And one of the ways I establish this safe place is I send my voice across to the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. So creaky, dulcet tones, they tend to eventually grow on you. Or you say, well, I don't mind these. The creaky, dulcet tones are a bit different. Like, they don't have an immediate soothing quality to them. But believe me, they'll, like, if the podcast works for you, obviously you say, well, I do like to, and it's creaky like a door and dulcet like a sweet treat, or, beautiful sound. Like a Tibetan bell. I don't know if that has a dulcet tone, but to me it does. Certain ones, I'm sure you say, well, you say, Scoots, what did you get? What did you get for give yourself a gift today? And I say, well, I bought these refurbed Tibetan bowls. Turns out they're called Tibetan bowls, not bells. I misspoke earlier. It was actually like a sound pack. It was discounted, a refurbed, secondhand Tibetan bowl sound effect pack, royalty free. But it's mostly the ones that are in the frequencies that aren't soothing. They're more, they don't even have any in the creaky frequencies. They're mostly just the kind you don't like, you say, oh boy. Like, now I know how a dog feels when you blow that invisible whistle or whatever. Oh, anyway, so creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders. That was a miniature one we just went on there. Superfluous, it could have been a superfluous tangent too. I'm going to go off topic. I'm going to misspeak. Oh boy, mispronounce. I haven't met a pronunciation. I couldn't, do that. But what I'm really going to do is I'm here to keep you company as you fall asleep. So if you're new, let me give you a couple pieces of information as we unbox what this sleep podcast is. As we unbox what this sleep podcast is. So the first thing to know as we take it out of this beautiful box, oh boy, is it soothingly packed in this nice, is that lavender I smell? Is the idea that this is a podcast you don't really need to listen to. We take it out, you look at it. It's kind of like a snow globe. So if you wanted to visualize what we're taking out of the box, you say this snow globe symbolizes the fact you don't need to listen to the podcast because you kind of shake up the snow in a snow globe, right? And sometimes you look at whatever the place or the character is in the snow within the globe. and you kind of look at the snow, but you don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I mean, some people may, and that's cool. But you maybe only notice the snow is like for a few seconds, and then maybe your attention drifts elsewhere. That's what you do the whole time to this podcast. You kind of look at it like the snow in a snow globe. Yeah, snow in a snow globe. I even have trouble saying that. I'm a little slow on the snow globe, you know what I'm saying? I've been that way my whole life. So it's a podcast you don't need to listen to. You can kind of barely listen. So that's one thing. Now let's take the second thing out here. Oh, this is interesting because this is, you could say these are slippers. I don't know, because that's what popped in my head. And oh boy, are these cozy slippers. And they say they're sleep slippers, right? And maybe they have the ones you could warm them up first, just like Chris would say, warm it up, Chris. And you'd say the slippers, I'm about to. And the slippers would say, warming up feet is what we were born to do. But so these slippers, the thing about the sleep with me is that these slippers symbolize, as we unbox them, is really, you know, that Sleep With Me is more of a podcast to be here while you fall asleep than to put you to sleep. Like, just like slippers, not too many people wear slippers in bed. If you do, nothing wrong with it. My only recommendation would be have some bed-only slippers. You know, give yourself a gift with some bed-only slippers if you do wear slippers in bed. But, you know, a lot of people, I mean, some people associate, you know, slippers and lounging. But I don't know. I mean, I've been making a sleep podcast for 7 years. I see a lot of sleep stuff and slipper stuff aligned. But slippers are more part of a bedtime experience than to put you to sleep, even if they're sleep slippers. I mean, unless they're made by Morpheus, the great god and goddess of sleep, who would say, oh, yeah, these ones, you just click them twice. And I'd say, well, thanks for putting Sleep With Me out of business, Morpheus, with your sleep slippers. Flooded the market with those. So this podcast, the reason why those slippers symbolize that is it's really not here to put you to sleep. It's here to be here as you fall asleep, to be a part of your bed down and wind down routine. Bed down routine. Again, that's one of my favorite Beastie Boys, like tracks that was never released. Got to get a bed down. People thought it was made about a bed made of down, which it wasn't. And then people thought it was a metaphor for something else, which it was not. So that's why it wasn't released. Oh, also, I imagined it in my head. Probably another reason they didn't release the song. But so this is a podcast you don't need to listen to, just like Snow Globe, and it's more a part of your bed down. You know, you can listen to it in bed as opposed to the slippers, which I guess this imaginary ones we're having is bed slippers. Also called socks. We just renamed them slippers, bed socks. So it's a podcast you don't need to listen to. It's more here to keep you company as you fall asleep. So those are two things to note. The other things we got to get out of this box is the structure of the show. Because it is like, it really had to get it in this box because it's so, the structure of the show is so different. So the first thing you'll notice is the show starts off with a greeting. I guess that would be the card in the box that says, hey, glad you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, or friends beyond the binary. Everyone's welcome, and we're here to try to put you to sleep. So that would be the first thing you would notice. Then at the bottom of the box is like how you say, whoa, that's like the thing from the company that sent the box. It has how, you know, everything, the inventory and the costs. So the next thing we have to do to keep the podcast free for everybody is the business. So we do the business next. Then after the business, is like the intro, which I guess in this case would be like, if this was a box or something, it'd be like a sampler pack where you say either you ordered the sampler pack or even better, they included it for free. Because, but you'd say, this isn't like any other sampler pack. But the idea of a sampler pack, I think, is to introduce you to a variety of products, right? So you could sample them. So Sleep With Me has an intro that's somewhere around 12 to 20 minutes long. So a greeting, 1 minute, business, 4, 5, 6 minutes. Then from about minute 7 to minute 20 is the intro. Those are approximate things. So you'd say, like, with a sampler pack, I think that's maybe easier to understand, but some people might say, what are these jars so small for? Because, I would like a more, and they say, well, yeah, you could order, but I guess that's a pretty good thing. So you'd kind of have to look at this. Sleep With Me is the inverse of a sampler pack because it's a gigantic, maybe that would be it. It'd say, oh boy, at the top of the box is a sampler pack. You say, okay, that makes sense. At the bottom of the box, the sampler is bulk size samples. And you'd say, well, I'm not even sure. I haven't even tried this product or paid for it. So this is great because I now have it in bulk. So the reason the Sleep With Me, really, the intros are so long is, one, to introduce you to the podcast and give you a general idea of what you're getting. But two is that the podcast is really supposed to be part of your bedtime routine. And for people to become regular listeners, or thank you, regular listeners, for being here, they either start the podcast as they're getting ready for bed or as they just get into bed. Or like a lot of people listen during the day for a break. But the whole idea of the intro is it slowly winds you down. So whether you're getting ready for bed and you're listening and you're doing some bedtime stuff and prep stuff, or you're in bed and starting to get comfortable and relax, the podcast is here to kind of do that with you as you wind down. Because I haven't found any instant way, personally, or as a sleep podcaster, to just, instantly put you to sleep. So if you're still confused, I'll tell you a few ways people listen. 2% of people start the show at 20 minutes because they just want to get closer to the story. Then a variety of people start the show and then they set a sleep timer for 30, 45, or 60 minutes. Maybe that's probably less than 5% of each of those, I would say. I'd have to get a look. And those people either start the intro before or after they get in bed. And some people fall asleep during the intro. And then some people don't start listening until they wake up. So that's another style of listener. Another way people listen is that they start an episode and maybe they set the sleep timer and then for 30 minutes. And then the next night they start the same episode at 30 minutes. So there's a lot of different ways to listen to the podcast. You could kind of slowly discover what works for you, which again kind of is about this sampler pack idea. It's just we've packed our sampler pack in a way that doesn't make, you say, I guess it doesn't, it kind of breaks the mold of sampler packs, but it makes sense in this situation. The other thing about sampler packs is that you discover not everything is your taste, right? And unfortunately, Sleep With Me just doesn't work for everybody. I'm not everybody's taste, or, just some people just want a bedtime story, or they're looking for something different. But also, you got to be careful in a sampler pack that you do give everything a try. So I tell everybody, give this show 2 or 3 tries, because it is an acquired taste. And, millions of people have acquired a taste for the show. And I only say that because almost every person that has an acquired taste for the show has said, oh, yeah, it took 2 or 3 tries before I acquired. It's actually the opposite. I realized I didn't have to taste the podcast, which is great because I really had never had any interest in tasting a podcast. Let's put that on a shirt and sell it, because that's probably, I never had any interest in tasting a podcast. Sleep With Me. I assume it tastes pretty neutral. Not as tasty as other podcasts, but, yeah. So that's it. So that's most of the stuff. Now, there's 2 other big things in the box. So we do the story, or we do the intro. Then there's a little more business between the intro or the sampler pack and the big box in there, which is our story. That starts around 20 minutes. Tonight will be our look back at our episodically modular series, Get Bezos. and a look ahead to our new series. And then again, at the bottom of the box or the end of the show is a thank you. So that I say, thanks. Hey, thanks for checking this out, or thanks for purchasing this product. If it was an unboxing. Now, now here's the amazing thing about this. This is the only unboxing you'll ever experience this, is that everything disappears. You say, wait a second, I didn't have to deal with the box or the wrapping or wonder if this was recyclable or not. Oh no, this is a figurative box. So it's gone already. You could use the stuff in there, but you don't got to clean up after me. Just like having a guest over, that you don't have to pay any attention to me. You don't have to worry about me leaving crumbs behind when I go. It's just, I'm on demand. So that's pretty much all you need to know. Other than this fact, I make the show because I've been there. I have trouble sleeping and I've had it my whole life. So I know how it feels there in the deep, dark night. That's why I call it the deep, dark night. Because that is figurative and it's real. But also, that's counterbalanced by the fact that I believe, you know what, I don't believe it, I know it. You deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place where you can rest and feel safe and unwind. And it's my job to provide that for you if I can. Like I said, it is an acquired taste, so I'll try to do that, and I hope it can help you because you do deserve that. And with you rested, not only will your world be a better place, our world will be, and that's the truth. I mean, it really is a fact. And I'd be honored if I could provide that for you. I really appreciate you coming by and checking the show out because I work really hard. I yearn and I strive. I really want to help you fall asleep. So thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we're able to give you this podcast for free. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. And what I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. Whether that's thoughts, things you're thinking about, things on your mind about the past, the present, or the future. Or just, you see, they're just thoughts coming up. It could be deep thoughts or shallow thoughts. I don't know if I've ever talked about deep or shallow thoughts. Sorry, thoughts. I didn't mean to call you shallow. Though I love shallow water. So thoughts, physical sensations, so anything coming up for you physically, or feelings, anything emotionally coming up for you that might be getting in the way of sleep. It could be something else, or no offense, but somebody else who's snoring or tossing and turning or messing with the temperature in your room or home. And now we're rolling our eyes and sighing at them. And maybe you're looking at them in a way that's both loving and in a way that's, well, I'm here to help with that. But it could be, travel, temperature, changes in routine, holy changes in routine. I don't know, maybe shouldn't say holy changes in routine because you'd say, is that what your beliefs? And I say, no, I wish my belief system said, well, let's celebrate these changes in routine. They offer us learning opportunity or a growth. I'd say, well, what keeps me up tossing and turning? Learning opportunities and growth opportunities. I'd say, Carol Dweck, could I, like they say, no coffee after noon or like 1 p.m. or whatever. I'd say no Carol Dweck after 2 p.m. They say, like, I'd like to put a stop to my growth mindset about 2 p.m. if at all possible. I'd like to I move into a fixed mindset around 4 p.m. and hopefully I'm fixing, first I'm fixing my dinner, then I'm fixing to relax, and then I'm fixing to get some sleep. But you might be wondering, what am I talking about? Well, yeah, I'm here to take your mind off of that. What I'm going to do is I'm trying to create a safe place, a little bit of a ridiculous place where you could set aside that stuff. Like I said, I'll send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'll use lulling, soothing, creaky dulcet tones, pointless me. Those are creaky dulcet tones, like a creaky door mixed with something sweet. Like if your favorite door was creaky and it was always creaky, it would be that's a creaky dulcet door. Because then that was also a cologne, the creaky dulcet door collection by Dior. No one ordered that, so it did not work out for me or, Dior. That was Christina Dior, not Christian. But we're no longer in business together because they said, I knew that was bad. I said, well, you didn't think a creaky this seasonally, I smell like the seasonal scent of a creaky dulcet door. So, what was I talking about though? Oh, send my voice across the deep dark night, creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders. You already got a few. Superfluous tangents, extra words, a lot of nonsense. And if you're new, I want to give you some information right away because I always forget and then I go off topic but so if you're new, I'm glad you're here. If you're skeptical or doubtful, you're probably like, I agree with you because I would be skeptical or doubtful or confused or off put or maybe a little bit flustered. Those are all natural reactions to this podcast. And so I want to acknowledge that that's how most people feel when they first start listening. So a couple things to know. One, kind of see how it goes. Most listeners, it takes 2 or 3 tries to get used to the podcast if they stick around. But it does work for a lot of people. So see how it goes. But before you say, well, I'm not so sure about that, I say, okay, totally understand that. You're not ready to see how it goes. So let me give you information on starting out. If you're going to listen to this podcast, just barely listen to it. And you might say, what do you mean? And I say, well, kind of don't pay super close attention. You can. But if you're trying to figure out when am I going to put you to sleep or how I'm going to do it or when I'm going to get started doing it, here's a hint, I already got started doing it because I'm more here like to take your mind off stuff and keep you company than to put you to sleep. But also, like, I found that when people try to look at the podcast, like they're looking for something that makes sense, oh boy. The only sense I make are ones that Christina Dior tried to sell and didn't work out. So there won't be a lot of making sense here. They'll be making up sense, but it's mostly nonsense, as I already said. So try to approach the podcast in a loose way. You don't have to approach it in a friendly way, like a loose, friendly way. You could say, well, like I said, keep me at a safe distance. And see how it goes. So this podcast you don't really need to pay attention to and you don't need to listen to. The other thing is there's no pressure to fall asleep. The shows are about an hour, so you have plenty of time to fall asleep. And I more keep you company as you drift off than put you to sleep. And if you can't sleep, you're very important to me. If you're awake or if you need the show or you need 8 episodes tonight, I'm here for you. That's why I make the show, to keep you company. So if you can't sleep, I'm here. But also in the sense that works. If you're asleep, I'm still here for you, even though you're asleep. It's great for both of us. Because I get to be here doing my job and keeping you company while you drift off. So, so those are 2 things to know. Oh, then structurally, that's the other thing that throws new listeners off. And the only thing I can do is kind of give you a heads up. It still might throw you off. And, this is a podcast. You don't have to like it. It's optional. I hope it works for you. But even for the people that works for, some of those people, they still don't exactly like the podcast. But I hope it works for you. And I hope you kind of enjoy it. I forgot what my point was. So structurally, this can throw people off. So the show, this is the structure of the show, and then I'll go into some specifics. So show starts off with business. Well, show starts off with a teaser, a greeting, then business, and then an intro, then business, and then I'll talk about Star Trek: The Next Generation. Doesn't matter I'll go into the details. Then some thank yous. And the reason the podcast is structured that way is there's business at the beginning that helps us keep the podcast free for everybody. So not super important if you're new. And then there's business between the intro and the episode, because that's just like some people like their business there. But because you say, well, why would it be after the intro? And they say, well, and then some people say, okay, tell me about the intro. And they say, well, the intro is around 12 to 14 to 16 to 18 to 19 to 17 and 15, 13, occasionally 11 minutes of me introducing the podcast. So if you're, thinking about it logically, you say, wait a second, it takes you 11 to 13 to 12 to 14 to 15 or 17 or 16 or 18 or 19 minutes to introduce a sleep podcast? Shouldn't you just say, Sleep With Me podcast to put you to sleep? Tonight we're talking about Star Trek, and then move on to putting me to sleep? And I'd say, well, that's a legitimate thing. And I do really wish that it worked that well, like that I could just do a 1-minute intro and then talk about Star Trek The Next Generation. And for about 2% of listeners, it does work that well. They skip ahead and they start the show at about 20 minutes. But for most listeners and for myself, I need a bedtime routine and a wind down routine. And so the intro, it serves two purposes. It introduces the new listeners to the show. And for the regular listeners, it's new every time. And it becomes part of their wind down routine. So it gives you time to ease into bedtime. So some listeners may fall asleep, but most listeners are either getting ready for bed, they start it playing before they get in bed, or they just got in bed and they're getting comfortable. They've been in there, 6 or 7 minutes now. What up? The bed's starting to get warm finally, huh? So the intro is like, you could say it's long and drawn out. And I would say, well, more like long and scribbled out. But, yeah, it's just the whole purpose is to ease you into bedtime. I don't know, because that is the intro. The intro is one of the things people feel strong, like that the podcast doesn't work for, feel strongest about. That in the business. And the business is kind of unavoidable because I want the podcast to be free. But in the intro, it does serve a purpose for most listeners. And then it's easy to skip, or patrons just listen. Some patrons just listen to story-only episodes. But really, if you become a regular listener, most listeners are fans of the intro because that's the part of the show they hear, which I guess is ironic because I put way more work into the story portion of the show. But I think the work I put in the show is what enables you not to have to listen to it. So that'll be the intro. Then there's business. And then I'll talk about Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, a couple things. If you don't watch the show, don't worry. It'll be soothing and sleepy like a bedtime story. If you're a big fan of Star Trek The Next Generation, you don't necessarily need to worry about it either, because it won't make you say, I don't think that was an episode, Scoots. I don't remember any of that happening. I say, well, it's my interpretation of it. So either way, you're covered. You say, well, one day I'm going to watch all. I say, well, again, you say, I thought Scoots talked about this episode. I don't remember any balloon animals. So that's the structure of the show. So those are the things, if you're new, that you need most I don't know, that I want you to know about. And then I was thinking at the beginning, I was talking about shallow thoughts and deep thoughts, right? And I just thought of this because I said, wait a second. Okay, so not many times you say that deep thoughts have a negative connotation, unless it's like you're, I don't know how many people have kids in their lives. But children from the age of 10 to 45, they've been known to do some deep thinking in a room where you might want to also use it to, go to the restroom. And so then you might say, can you finish up with those deep thoughts in there, please? I got to get in there. And, so that's the only time that people say, wow, you and your deep thinking, or they say, what are you doing? Sitting around there thinking about deep space so there's not many times people say that, but shallow thoughts, they really, like you say, like a shallow thought, you'd say, well, how's my hair? You say, oh boy, you and your shallow thoughts. I'd say, wait a second, you could read my mind. You knew I was thinking about my hair. And they'd say, well, because your thoughts were so shallow. Your mind's easy to read with those shallow thoughts. But how come shallow? Here's because I said it. I said, I thought, when you think about shallow water, It's almost like the opposite. Like deep water, you associate it with being cold, maybe having too many fish, but shallow water, I'll tell you what, put me in some shallow water at a beach where I could see put my feet in and see my feet, maybe one or two minnows and it's warm. Holy shallow water. Uh, so, I mean, sometimes shallow thoughts, you really need them. I mean, you say, well, they don't involve any deep stuff. They don't have to be narcissistic, or you don't have to use that word, right? You say, well, I was just thinking about bubble gum. I guess that's a shallow thought, chewing it. That I don't know what other shallow thoughts, because I don't want to say something's a shallow thought. It might be a deep thought. One person's shallow thought is another person's, think piece. But I think we could all agree. I'm just trying to think of who would object to shallow water. I mean, obviously, big ships, they'd say, well, we can't even get in there. Or, sea beings that need deep water. But you say, well, shallow water, you could, it's good for your ankles. Sometimes it's good to sit down in. I mean, I'm talking about Hollywood water, by the way, not normal everyday water. You might say, well, Scoots, I'm picturing, I say, no, this is only Hollywood water. The I'm leaning into the Hollywoodization of shallow water. So, yeah, the one with the sunlight filtering through, sandy bottomed, holy cow. I mean, yeah, if you have shallow water with MUCK on the bottom, that's a different story. But I'm here to glorify what's already been glorified in a because I'm just here to be shallow. I'm talking shallow cast. We're talking the shallow water cast, the shallow episode. Just talking about how great it is, how pretty it is. But those are deep things at the same time, but not in this case, you say. I mean, to the minnow in there, they say, well, what do you mean this is shallow water? It's a perfect temperature. It's this is my home until I go over there, and then that's my home. And then you don't even see me when after dark, you don't know where I am. But really, I'm still in this shallow water, cruising around. Where do you sleep? In the shallow water somewhere. Okay, well, that's good to know. So, I don't know. That was just something I was thinking about. One of my shallow thoughts. I said, how come shallow water does not get the credit? Well, I guess it's not transferable. You say, well, shallow thoughts, Scoots, I don't know if you know this, different words have different meaning. They say, whoa, hold the phone. Does this mean everything I learned with like Latin prefixes and those kind of things? Should I throw all that out the window? Well, Scoots, shallow is actually a word. It's not a prefix. Are those called prefixes, or is somebody going to email me and they say, no, that's not what it's called? Well, I don't know, because I'm within your brain. But I'm just telling you, shallow water and shallow thoughts, those are two different things. Kind of, though. But can you agree with me that shallow water is pretty darn great? So why wouldn't shallow thoughts at least be pretty okay? Can you give me an example, Scoots? Okay, let's say you look at the blue sky. You don't like, and you're like me, you know nothing. You've learned about clouds and blue, that there's like water vapor or something, or, it's like that you can't see space because of whatever, but you really don't know anything. You say, darn, that sky looks good. It's pretty blue, except for the wispy clouds. Oh boy. That's nice. Isn't that a good shallow thought to have? Or what about the wind? And you say, "Oof, that wind, it's a little chilly, but it feels not." Okay, I know I have to work on expanding my vocabulary, but you say, "Oh boy, this feels nice." Oshkosh bagosh, that wind in my hair. That's a summer breeze, even though it's spring. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I guess so. All right, well, good talking to you. Yeah, great talking to you. I'll see you in a minute, when right in your brain right now. All right, go ahead and go up there. I got to finish this intro. So I think that's it. Whether you have, I'm here to take your mind off of any thoughts or feelings or physical sensations. I'm here to keep you company. I make the show because I've been there and I know how it feels, waking up early, tossing and turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. I've had it all. And I think it's important. I know you deserve a good night's sleep, and I'm here to try to help if I can. I really appreciate you checking this show out, giving me your time. I work very hard. I yearn and I strive to help you fall asleep. And here's a couple of ways we're able to keep the show free for you and everybody else listening. Thanks.
This show is supported by Odoo. When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.